Well, hey guys, in this video, I'm going to just go over the instructions that were placed on Schoology, and I'll be showing y'all a couple of my drawing examples and other things like that. I'll have another video, there may be a couple of videos that will show my actual drawing section for the assignment. So anyway, here we go. So this is the pen and ink base color assignment. So before you're going to add your main color, as y'all know, you're going to end up putting your base colors on here. And your base colors, of course, you're going to have mainly yellow, blue, and then you're going to have the light gray and then the black in your pack. And if you look at your pack, the blue is going to be that lightest blue that you see in your pack. So you're going to, for this assignment, use mainly pointillism to make this happen. You can, and I did, in some of my areas, I did use a little bit of hatching and cross hatching. You can see on some of the main areas of the shoe, I did the more bold areas like that, but the majority of my piece, if you look, I've got a bunch of dots all over the place, right? So anyway, what I found with this, and I think I had told y'all earlier, that it's a lot easier to control the color and mix the color when you actually do pointillism. So anyway, so what I have here is I have the base color of this. I just attached this just so that you guys could see. And what I also did, just so that you can compare the new thing that you are doing to the last assignment, one thing that I want you guys to look at is just the value in this assignment. Basically, all you're doing really is you're adding your color, be it yellow and blue and, well, your grays, on top of the already existing value patterns that you see. So I'm going to go back after looking at this, and we're going to look back at that final product. So you can see if I left white in my original drawing, like I left a bunch of white here in the foreground, and there's still a lot of white here. I would say this behind even the shoe, that's getting towards the foreground. And then I left a little bit less white as you go to the middle ground, and then even less white in my background areas. So it's, basically you're just going back over what you have already done. I do, it's a little bit more intense, I would say, or filled up than the original value that I did in black and white, but it's very similar, and it goes with what you see right there. So that's one good thing. Once you laid out the pen and ink, it's going to make things a lot easier as you go through these steps. So here we go. Speaking of steps, so what y'all are going to do is, the previous color schemes that we looked up that you guys had turned in or will turn in, whenever you're watching this video, on the 28th. Look at those examples just to help you guys out. And also, one thing that I would tell you to do as you're working on this assignment, if you haven't already, go ahead and make multiple copies of that black and white, of the corrections that you guys had turned in previously. I would make, maybe 4 or 5 copies. You can make it a little bit smaller than your actual final piece of art, or you can make it the same size. It really does not matter to me. You don't have to, when you're practicing, you don't have to finish anything. You could just do a little sample of either blue or yellow just to make sure that it's going to work. You could do a little sample when you're adding gray just to make sure that you understand what to do. And you feel comfortable before you start on your final product. If for some reason you mess up on your final product, you're going to have copies that you can work with. So what I would recommend on at least one of those copies, do it the actual size of your final piece. And yeah, you'll just kind of have that backup to work with. So the first thing that y'all are going to do is to begin with your background. You're going to be adding mainly a base tone of blue. And with that blue, you're going to be mixing a gray, and you have a light gray in your pack. And I would start off with the light gray, and then you will go on to the dark gray there. And I don't know if you could see this better here, but you can see, like, holistically, when you look at this thing, the background, like back here, here, those two areas are probably the most muted. And what I mean by that is the most amount of gray is added to that, and it's also the coolest part. It is the most contrasted part, so you have much more shadows as your layers overlap each other in those particular areas than any of the other areas there. So just keep those things in mind as you're working. And what I did attached to this, I actually attached a comparison to my colored version of my background to my black and white version right there. The next thing you guys are going to be doing, you're going to be working in your middle ground, and you're going to be doing that mainly in pointillism. You're going to be using a mixture of yellow and blue, and what I would do here is to look at your research that you guys did with your color schemes. In general, what I ended up doing on my piece, if I ended up having blue somewhere, I might put yellow here, and then I might end up putting blue here, and then yellow here. It's kind of like off on right here. But one thing that I do want to show you, and I actually have this in your example, is that you will be introducing more yellows into your middle ground than what would be in your background. But you might, like in your colored piece, like the final piece that you guys are going to be doing, one thing that I want you to notice here is I ended up with my base tone making this mainly blue right here. There's a little bit of yellow mixed in with the background, and then this I put a lot of yellow right there. So if you look at my actual color, I've intensified the blue here, and I ended up putting more of a warm yellowy green right here, and you can see the little variations there, and we can compare those to this right here. So you can have a cool undertone still in your middle ground, or it can go more towards a warmer ground right there. So it just depends on, you know, what you're going to do with that. But the main rule is just to make sure that your background is cooler and darker than what you see in your middle ground. You're going to have less you're going to have more white in your middle ground than what's going to be in your background. So just for you guys to know. And as you can look, I've got the comparisons of the two areas right there for your middle ground. And then the last thing you're going to do is you're going to add color to your foreground of your shoe. The main thing to know that you're going to leave the majority of white in this work. That's going to be, I would say, the brightest area of your work. And you're also going to have more warm tones right there, because in general, as you go throughout your background, middle ground, foreground, things get warmer as you go into your foreground. And I really consider, you know, this little section here right behind my shoe, and also this little poof right here and my shoes, as well as my little pole right here, those are all my foreground areas. And if you look, you know, majority of what you see, I've got yellow added. I've got a little bit of blue added and stuff like that. And as you can see, my final product, it's relatively very warm in the foreground right there. And as you can kind of see in the background, things start to get cooler and more muted and pushed back. And there, as you go in the background, there's going to be less and less brightness there. So anyway, all right, so just keep those things in mind as you color your actual piece as you go to your foreground. one thing that I do want y'all to keep in mind and just to think about here is that your shoe is still very stylized. In general, you guys had made your lines very, very bold right here. So you're going to make your color, although there's going to be a lot of white here, you're going to make your color a little bit more bold. So I didn't so much do a lot of pointillism. There's a little bit of pointillism on my shoe, but the majority of my pointillism is actually done more on everything else. Just for my own preference, that's what I did, just to make things stand out a bit more. And I also have the comparisons of my base color right here, as well as just my original right there. So if you look, I've got my grading criteria. Basically, y'all, it's just follow directions and manage your time, put a lot of detail in it, effort in it. Just make sure that you're watching the YouTube videos and all that good stuff right there. So we're going to look forward to a little drawing demonstration next. This is due on, well, you can see the due date right there. It's February the 4th at 3 o'clock. So I will see y'all in a bit.